Hi, my name is Elena. 6 years ago, the man I loved disappeared with a single cold message. I need to focus on my future. This isn't working anymore. I called him 47 times until I realized his number had been disconnected. But on the day I stepped onto the stage in New York to present my work in front of hundreds of people, he appeared. And in that very moment, he saw two little girls with faces unmistakably his own. Before I share the full story, tell me where you're watching from in the comments. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe if you've ever pushed through something you thought was impossible. Trust me, you'll want to hear what happens next. I still remember the weight of his absence that October morning. 6 years have passed, but my fingers sometimes trace the edge of my coffee cup the same way they used to trace the line of Nicholas's jaw. Back then, I was 21, studying architecture at Northwestern, sketching buildings that would never be built and dreaming dreams that would never come true. Nicholas Hale entered my life like a storm, sudden, overwhelming, inevitable. He was finishing his MBA, 5 years older, with that easy confidence that comes from never having to count pennies at the grocery store. But when he looked at me in that campus coffee shop, fumbling with my scattered blueprints, something shifted in his eyes. "You design like you're trying to give people homes, not just houses," he'd said, and I knew I was lost. We had 8 months. 8 months of him showing up at my tiny apartment with takeout from places I couldn't afford, of studying side by side in the library until security kicked us out, of whispered promises about the life we'd build together. He'd trace my architectural drawings with his finger and say, "One day, you'll design our home." His family lived in a different universe, the kind where charity galas were Tuesday obligations and summer meant the Hamptons. I met them once. His mother's smile never reached her eyes as she cataloged my department store dress, my mother's accent when I mentioned her, my father's construction job. "How refreshing," she'd said about my career aspirations, the word sharp as winter wind. The last time I saw Nicholas, he held my face between his hands in my apartment doorway. "I'll handle them," he promised. "Trust me, Elena, I'll handle them." 3 days later, I got the text. Clinical, precise. "I need to focus on my future. This isn't working anymore."
I called 47 times. Each ring echoed in my chest like a heartbeat stopping. His number became disconnected by the weekend. I went to his apartment. The doorman, who'd always smiled at me, looked through me like I was smoke. "Mr. Hale left instructions. You're not on the list anymore." I threw up in the pristine marble bathroom of his building's lobby. The attendant handed me paper towels with practiced discretion, probably used to ejecting Nicholas's father's inconvenient problems. But she didn't know about the other problem, the one I discovered that very morning, staring at 2 pink lines in my bathroom. 21 years old, abandoned, pregnant, and suddenly understanding that love wasn't enough when you were the wrong kind of girl from the wrong kind of family. I packed my life into 3 suitcases and bought a Greyhound ticket to anywhere that wasn't Chicago. The echo of what we'd been still haunts me. Even now, in my kitchen in Montana, I sometimes catch myself setting out 2 coffee cups before remembering I drink alone. The pregnancy test had been positive for exactly 6 hours when I bought that bus ticket to Whitefish, Montana. I'd found the town on a map, small enough to disappear, big enough to find work. The 1,200-mile journey gave me time to practice not crying, to perfect the art of shallow breathing that wouldn't disturb the morning sickness. I remember the ultrasound technician's face when she turned the screen toward me. "Twins," she said gently, watching me process the impossible. 2 heartbeats on the monitor, strong and insistent. Isabella and Camila, though I wouldn't name them for weeks. 2 pieces of Nicholas I'd carry forever. 2 reasons to be stronger than I felt. Whitefish embraced me the way small towns do, cautiously but with eventual warmth. I found a job at a local architectural firm, sketching renovations for fishing lodges and family cabins. My boss, Harold, was 70 and kind, pretending not to notice when morning sickness sent me rushing to the bathroom. "My wife had terrible morning sickness with our boys," he'd say, sliding crackers across my desk. The girls arrived during a February blizzard. 27 hours of labor, alone.
Except for the nurses who held my hands when the pain made me scream Nicholas's name. Isabella came first, fierce and demanding. Camilla followed 4 minutes later, quieter but watching everything with those eyes, his eyes. I'd prepared for the logistics of single motherhood, but not for the moments that ambushed me. Like when Isabella smiled for the first time and I saw Nicholas's dimple, or when Camilla wrapped her tiny fist around my finger with the same determined grip he'd had when he promised we'd be together forever. The early years blur together now, a watercolor painting of exhaustion and wonder. Working while they napped in the portable cribs, Harold let me set up in the office storage room. Designing dream houses for clients while living in a 2-bedroom apartment where the radiator clanged like a ghost. Teaching myself to be 2 parents, to throw a baseball and braid hair, to answer, "Where's Daddy?" with, "Some people just have mommy, and that's okay too." Dr. Owen Carter entered our lives when the girls were 3. Camilla had fallen from the jungle gym, and he'd been the emergency room pediatrician who'd made her laugh through the stitches. "Brave girl," he'd said, but he was looking at me. Later, he became our regular pediatrician, then the friend who appeared with soup when we all had flu, then something more complicated that I couldn't quite name. "You know I'm here, right?" Owen would say, watching me wrestle with bedtime stories and bath time chaos. "You don't have to do this alone." But I did. Because letting someone in meant risking another leaving. The girls had lost a father they'd never known. I wouldn't let them lose anyone else. So I smiled at Owen, accepted his help grudgingly, and built walls so high that even I sometimes forgot what lay behind them. The email arrived on a Tuesday while I was sketching playgrounds. The American Institute of Architects wanted me to present my community housing project at their New York conference. My hands shook as I read it 3 times. New York, his city. "You have to go," Harold said, peering over my shoulder. "This is career-defining, Elena." I stared at my daughters playing with blocks in the corner of the office, building towers they'd inevitably knock down. 6 years of hiding, and now opportunity was dragging me back to the place where I'd been broken. But their college funds were still more a dream than reality, and this presentation could change everything. "Mommy's going on an airplane," I told them that night, practicing my brave face. Isabella immediately demanded to come. Camila, always more intuitive, touched my cheek. "Will you come back?" "Always," I promised, the word tasting like fear. New York hit me like a slap. The smell of subway grates and ambition. The press of bodies all moving towards something bigger than themselves. I'd booked a hotel in Queens, far from the Manhattan memories, but the city's pulse still found me. Every tall building seemed to whisper his name. The conference was at the Javits Center, all glass and importance. I wore my best dress, a designer consignment find, and practiced my presentation in the bathroom mirror. Community-centered design isn't just about buildings, I whispered to my reflection. It's about creating homes where families thrive. I was arranging my presentation materials when I heard it. That laugh, low, confident, achingly familiar. My body knew before my mind accepted it. Nicholas stood 20 feet away, surrounded by suits and sycophants, gesturing at architectural models with hands I'd once known better than my own. He turned as if pulled by invisible string. Our eyes met across 6 years of silence. Time stuttered. His face went white, then flushed. The man beside him kept talking, but Nicholas wasn't listening anymore. He took a step toward me, another. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't do anything but watch him approach, like a reckoning I'd both dreaded and craved. "Elena." My name on his lips was a prayer and an apology. I found my voice in the sharp edges of old pain. "Mr. Hale, professional, distant, everything we'd never been. You're here, you're..." His eyes swept over me, cataloging changes. "You're presenting?" "Yes." One word, pulling from reserves of strength I'd built in midnight feedings and single-parent teacher conferences. "Elena, I need to..." "Mommy." The voice cut through the conference noise like a blade. I turned to see Harold walking toward us, a girl's hand in each of his. He'd surprised me, bringing them to watch my presentation. Isabella broke free, running toward me with Camilla close behind. I caught them, lifted them, turned back to find Nicholas staring at 2 small faces that were unmistakably his own. The earth didn't move. It simply stopped. Nicholas's legs gave out. He caught himself on a display table, sending architectural models scattering. The sound barely registered over the roaring in my ears. Isabella, bold as always, studied him with those familiar green eyes. Why is that man staring at us, Mommy? I couldn't speak. 6 years of carefully constructed walls crumbled as Nicholas's gaze moved between the girls and me, doing math that broke his face into pieces. Eleanor, there you are. Harold's timing was a gift. He positioned himself between us, protective. Girls, let's get seats for Mommy's big presentation. Elena. Nicholas's voice cracked. Please. 5 minutes. No. The word came from somewhere primal, mama bear, fierce. You don't get to... I never left you. The words tumbled out desperate, raw. Elena, I never left you. I tried to call, to find you. Every number disconnected, every email bounced. They told me you'd moved on, that you'd been seeing someone else, that you'd used me for... Stop. I was shaking. Camila pressed closer, sensing my distress. Just stop. But he kept coming, careful not to spook the girls, but desperate to reach me. My parents, they did something. I know how this sounds, but Elena, I never sent that text. I never... Mr. Hale. Harold's voice held 40 years of protective grandfather authority. The lady asked you to stop. The conference swirled around us, oblivious to our small tragedy. Nicholas pulled out his phone with trembling hands, scrolling frantically. Look, please, just look. He showed me screenshots. Dozens of emails to addresses I'd never had, calls to numbers I'd never owned. I hired investigators. They said you'd vanished, that you didn't want to be found. My presentation was in 10 minutes. My daughters were watching. My carefully built life was dissolving like sugar in rain. It doesn't matter anymore. How old are they? His voice broke completely. That's none of your business. Elena, please, are they... We're 5, Isabella announced proudly. Always his daughter, inserting herself into any conversation. Nicholas made a sound like wounded animal. Security was watching now, alerted by the scattered models. I gathered my girls closer, but Camilla reached out one small hand toward him. Why are you sad? That broke him. Nicholas Hale, heir to an empire, dropped to his knees in the middle of the Javits Center. I'm sad because I lost something precious a long time ago. Mommy finds our lost things, Camilla offered seriously. She's really good at it. Harold cleared his throat. Elena, your presentation. I let him lead us away, but I felt Nicholas's eyes following. Somehow, I got through my presentation. Spoke about building communities for families, about designing spaces where children could grow safely, about architecture as an act of love. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd built everything except bridges back to the past. When I finished, to considerable applause, Nicholas was waiting outside the conference room. I know you hate me, he began. I don't hate you. The truth surprised us both. I nothing you, I survived you. He showed up at our hotel the next morning with coffee and a teddy bear for each girl. I'd spent the night wrestling with ghosts while my daughters slept peacefully, unaware their world had tilted off its axis. How did you find us? I asked through the barely open door. I own the hotel. Of course he did. The old Nicholas would have been embarrassed by the admission. This one just looked tired. Can I just talk to them, please? Isabella was already pushing past me, drawn by the bears. Are those for us? And so began the strangest dance of my life. Nicholas, on the floor of a hotel room, learning our daughters' names. Isabella showed him her drawings. Architectural sketches already, my girl. Camila, shyer, watched from behind my leg until he pulled out his phone and showed her pictures of buildings he'd developed. I help design homes for families, he told them, his voice careful. Like your mom. Our mom's the best, Isabella informed him. She built a tree house in Mr. Peterson's yard that has real windows. I watched him absorb every detail, their favorite colors, purple and green, their breakfast preferences, pancakes with faces, their bedtime rituals. 2 stories, 1 song. When Camila climbed into his lap to see his phone better, Nicholas looked at me with tears streaming down his face. I'll go back to Chicago, I said quietly. We'll work out some kind of... No. He shifted Camila gently, pulling out a thick folder. I brought these. I need you to understand. The papers told a story that made my stomach turn. Email accounts created in my name, phone records spoofed, even a fake social media profile showing me with another man, Photos doctored so cleverly, I had to look twice to see the deception. His family had orchestrated my disappearance with surgical precision. The investigator found this last year, he said quietly. My father had a stroke 6 months ago. My mother finally admitted some of it. Some of it? She swears they didn't know about. He gestured helplessly at the girls, now building block towers on the hotel carpet. Elena, I would have torn the world apart to find you if I'd known. The thing about pain is that it fossilizes, turns soft hurt into hard edges that cut anyone who comes too close. But watching Nicholas help Isabella balance a particularly ambitious block structure, seeing Camilla pat his arm when a tower fell, I felt something crack in my chest. I can't just forgive 6 years, I whispered. I'm not asking you to. He met my eyes over our daughters' heads. I'm asking for the chance to be their father, to prove I'm not the man who let you disappear. That night, Owen called. How's the conference going? I could hear the real question underneath. It's complicated, I admitted, watching the girls sleep in their hotel bed, new teddy bears clutched tight. Elena. His sigh carried 3 years of unspoken things. Just be careful. The Hale estate in the Hamptons looked exactly as I'd remembered, imposing, immaculate, and cold as February rain. Nicholas had insisted on this confrontation, and I'd agreed only because I needed to look his parents in the eye. The girls thought it was an adventure, pressing their noses to the car windows as we wound through streets where houses had names instead of numbers. Big house, Isabella observed. Too big. Where do you play? Mrs. Hale waited in the foyer like a general preparing for battle. 6 years had sharpened her edges, but when she saw the girls, something flickered across her face. Regret, maybe, or just calculation. Mother. Nicholas's voice could have frozen flame. You remember Elena? Of course. She studied me with those cold blue eyes, then looked at my daughters, her granddaughters. They're beautiful. Mr. Hale wheeled in from the study, his stroke evident in the slight droop of his left side, but his voice remained strong. This is unfortunate. Unfortunate? Nicholas stepped forward. You destroyed my life. You stole my children from me. We protected the family legacy, Mrs. Hale said smoothly, from what appeared to be a calculated stop. I was surprised by my own calm. Your son left because he's a coward. You helped, but he left. Nicholas flinched. His parents exchanged glances. You could have fought, I continued, finding strength in truths I'd never spoken. Could have looked harder, pushed back, chosen us, but you didn't. So yes, you're all responsible. Camilla tugged my hand. Mommy, why is everyone angry? That's when Mr. Hale played his card. Did you know your father tried to destroy our Shanghai project in 2016? Cost us $14 million in delays with his environmental protests? The world tilted. My father died in 2017. After we crushed his firm, yes? Mrs. Hale's smile was razor sharp. Interesting that his daughter would target our son so soon after. I remembered my father's final year. The drinking, the depression, the way he'd apologized for failing to leave me anything. He'd never mentioned the Hales, but then he'd protected me from so many of his battles. You're saying I seduced your son for revenge? I laughed, but it came out broken. I didn't even know who Nicholas was when we met. Convenient, Mrs. Hale murmured. Nicholas grabbed the antique vase from the entry table and threw it against the marble wall. The crash made everyone jump, the girls pressing against me in fear. Enough, he turned on his parents. You want to destroy everything you touch? Fine, but you won't touch them. He looked at me, then our daughters. We're leaving, and if you come near my family again, I'll dismantle everything grandfather built, brick by brick. You'd destroy your inheritance for them? Mr. Hale's voice held genuine shock. Nicholas knelt beside the girls, gentle despite his rage. Hey, want to see the beach? There's an ice cream shop. As he led us out, Mrs. Hale called after him. You're making a mistake, Nicholas. He didn't look back. No, Mother, I'm fixing one. The beach house Nicholas rented was everything the estate wasn't. Warm, lived in, with sandy floors and windows that actually opened. The girls ran straight to the shore while we watched from the deck, the weight of revelation hanging between us. I didn't know about your father, he said quietly. Elena, I swear I didn't know. I believed him. That was the terrible thing. I believed everything now. The fabricated emails, the family manipulation, even his years of searching. But belief didn't erase the scar tissue. It doesn't matter, I said. Don't you see? We were doomed from the start. Your family, mine, we were just collateral damage in their wars. Nicholas turned to face me fully. You're not collateral damage. You're the only real thing I've ever chosen. That night, while the girls built sandcastles by moonlight, Owen called again. This time, I answered. I'm flying out, he said without preamble. You need support. Owen, don't. I love you. The words hung in the beach air. I've loved you for 2 years, Elena. I know you're not ready, maybe you'll never be ready, but you should know you have choices. Real ones. A future that doesn't hurt. After I hung up, I found Nicholas teaching Camila to skip stones. Isabella had given up, choosing instead to collect shells. The scene was so perfectly what I'd once dreamed that it physically hurt. There's someone else, I told him when the girls ran ahead. He nodded slowly. The pediatrician. I had you investigated when I couldn't find you. I know. You had me investigated? I was desperate. No apology, just fact. Is he good to them? He's good to all of us. Nicholas picked up a stone, threw it hard into the waves. I won't share them, Elena. I can't. I've already lost 6 years. That's when Isabella came running back, tears streaming. Camila fell. We ran together, found Camila sitting in the sand, clutching her knee. Nicholas reached her first, scooping her up with practiced ease that suggested muscle memory from another life. Perhaps the children he'd thought he'd have by now, with someone suitable. Brave girl, he murmured, examining the scrape. Just like your mom. Camilla looked between us with those 2 knowing eyes. Are you our daddy? The beach went silent except for waves. Nicholas looked at me, asking permission I didn't know how to give. Finally, I nodded. Yes, he said simply. I'm your daddy, and I'm very, very late. Isabella studied him with my skepticism. Where were you? Lost, he admitted. But I'm here now. Promise, Camilla asked. Nicholas pulled both girls close, meeting my eyes over their heads. I promise. No matter what happens, I'm your daddy, and I'm here. Watching them together, I felt the last of my carefully constructed walls crumble. The problem with truth is that it doesn't erase history. It just complicates the future. The custody arrangement took 3 months to negotiate. Nicholas left the family company, liquidating his trust fund to start something smaller, cleaner. I watched him rebuild himself while I did the same, accepting a position with a Chicago firm specializing in sustainable community development. Owen flew out twice. The second time, he sat with me in my half-packed Montana apartment while the girls were at school. I could love them like my own, he said. You know that, right? I know. And I did. Owen was safety, was Sunday pancakes without drama, was loving someone who'd never been broken by the same things that broke you. But they have a father. You love him. Not a question. I love who we were, I corrected. I don't know who we are now. Owen kissed my forehead when he left. When you figure it out, I'll be here. But life doesn't wait for clarity. Nicholas threw himself into fatherhood with the intensity he'd once reserved for acquisitions. Dance recitals, parent-teacher conferences, Saturday morning cartoons. He absorbed it all like a man making up for drought. The girls bloomed under his attention, Isabella especially. She'd started sketching buildings like him, like me, bridging our worlds with crayon and paper. The wedding, when it came, wasn't what either of us had once imagined. No Hamptons estate, no society photographers. Just a community garden in Lincoln Park that I'd helped design, with the girls as flower girls and Harold officiating through tears. I thought I'd lost you, Nicholas whispered as we exchanged rings. Simple bands, nothing like the Tiffany solitaire he'd once picked out in another lifetime. You did, I said honestly. We lost each other, but maybe that's okay. Maybe we needed to break to rebuild. His mother sent a card, no money, just a note that said, I hope you prove me wrong. His father sent nothing, but Nicholas's brother appeared at the reception, slipping an envelope into my hand. Inside, a letter confessing to orchestrating the email hacks, to feeding their parents' fears, to wanting Nicholas out of the company he'd been promised. What do we do with this? I asked Nicholas later, watching our daughters dance with Harold. Nothing, he decided. We build forward, not back. The community center we developed together won 3 architectural awards. Nicholas handled the business side, while I designed spaces where families could grow, where single mothers could find support, where love could be complicated and messy and real. Sometimes I dream about the girl I was, 21, and sure that love conquered all. I want to tell her that love isn't enough, that it's just the foundation. The house you build on it, that takes work, forgiveness, and the kind of courage that comes from being broken and choosing to heal anyway. Mommy? Camila asked one night, looking at our wedding photo. Were you scared? Terrified, I admitted. But you did it anyway? I smoothed her hair, his hair. Sometimes the brave thing isn't feeling ready. It's choosing to begin.